What have you learned that makes teams like the Patriots who they are?
I think it's accountability. I think when a team is accountable to each other and they care about each other, I think it just makes the organization a lot better. And I think when you have a coach who has a clear and concise message each and every day, I think it makes the team come together and they have a lot of morale. And I think Bill Belichick does a great job of being honest. Doug Peterson does a great job of being honest. Pete Carroll, too. So when you have that, everybody can follow suit. And then they always have the best player is always the best leader. If you look at Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson was the best leader, and he always was first when we were running. Tom Brady's the great leader, and also Carson Wentz, he was also a great leader. And I think when you have an organization, they pinpoint a great leader who is also the best player, it makes the organization a lot better.
You said Belichick's message has been consistent through the. What is his message? What is that consistent message that you take day in and day out is always there?
Man, every time you watch anything, it's always do your job. It's like everybody does their job to win. Nobody's greater than the whole. Everybody does what they're supposed to do. That's why they don't always have the best players on defense or the best players on offense when you talk about statistically or numbers, but they always have the players who make the big plays at the big moment because they're doing their job.
Some people might think that someone like yourself, not me, would be a good fit for New England. Now, I know you're a perfect fit. For one is you've been to other organizations. You're playing for nothing but championships, not money, not Pro Bowls, and you're a very versatile player. How much are you looking forward at this point in your career to learning new things and being coached by Bill Belichick himself?
I think it's a great opportunity. For one, I get to play with Tom Brady and Devin McCourty and all these great guys, Dante Hightower, guys who's been in great situations, guys who know about team. And I'm just want to learn about leadership and learn about how to, be on the team and fit in and do all these different things. And I think they do a great job of that. And Bill Belichick also, he's the Jedi when it comes to defense and when it comes to team and organization, as being a young business owner and father and all these different things. It's a great opportunity to learn from somebody like Bill Belichick when it comes to how to organize your organization and how to be the leader and have that message that people follow all the time. And I think this is a great time. And I think the city of New England is just outstanding.
Boston, Foxborough, the whole upper Massachusetts area. The other question, to go back to the start of the segment, which is Pat's had a great draft, and you asked what distinguishes those three organizations. You mentioned the coaches. But the other thing that Seattle, Philly, and New England have, John Schneider, Howie Roseman, and Belichick wears both hats in New England, what they do during the draft year after year is it's not necessarily that they are better at selecting players, because that's almost a crapshoot for everybody. But they understand the process of the draft as well as anybody ever. Seattle went into this year's draft a week and a half ago. They had 4 picks. All of a sudden, by midway through the second round, they had 11 picks because they kept wheeling and dealing. New England in the draft, the first pick and the last pick they made were the ones that were assigned to them by the league. Every other player they picked was with the draft pick they traded up for or down for or traded for in a previous year. Like, they understand that the ability to pick multiple players, but then they saw Joejuan Williams, a guy they targeted, a guy they thought was good value. They'll move up and go get him. Understand Roseman would do the same thing in Philly.
Yeah, but also, too, I also think they don't just draft the player, they draft the mindset. I think a lot of times organizations just go out there, oh, this guy looks so pretty as this. They draft somebody who has a story, who has something to prove, a chip on their shoulder, and that stays consistent with that player through his time in the league. A lot of organizations don't do that. They draft the guy who might not love football as much as they think. They go after the guy who loves football, who loves everything about it, the process, the pain of it, the injury, everything about it, and then they draft that guy.
This is not Belichick's first time trying to come after you, though. Yeah. Now, he tried to come after you before. How did you hear about the trade? Because you were on our show, and we had some private conversations as far as what you thought about your career moving forward. Next thing you know, man, you're off to New England. Did you hear from Belichick, or who else in the organization, or did someone else in the organization reach out to you?
No, Belichick reached out to me and wanted me to come out there, and I went to New England, and it was just, I felt like it was a good fit. I think it was a good fit for me. How being able to be, I never really played in the AFC before, and this is my first time really being in the AFC conference, and being on that team I thought was a good fit for me, and understanding how Belichick uses his players on defense and giving matchups and different things like that. I thought it was a great opportunity, so it turned out well.
And while the Patriots are known for being very cost conservative, What they have done is, if they key on a player that they think can be a big difference maker, whether it was Darrelle Revis a few years ago, whether it was Stephon Gilmore a couple of years ago, or you this season, that Belichick will say, okay, we'll open up the checkbook a bit, because one of your issues with Philadelphia was wanting a new contract. New England didn't seem like they had much problem giving you some new money or different money, moving it around. When they think they have an impact player that can make a difference that year, they'll go out and do that, as it appears they did for you this season.
Yeah. For me, it was for the Eagles. It was more about competition and not. I felt like at this point I wasn't at the stage of my career where I wanted to be a backup. I wanted to be in the game more consistently because I was still making high impact plays. If you look at the numbers compared to the players high in the league,
paid.
Yeah, or just in the league, I was
Sure.
still at the top of the game. So I wasn't looking to be third or string or something like that. So
Michael, you followed what's going on with this team just as much as we have been. These two guys, Le'Veon Bell and AB, are now gone. How much will actually change for the Steelers without them in the locker room?
I mean, I think the things that will change is some of the production, but at the same time, you know, you got James Conner. He's a really good running back. He's able to do some things in the passing game and able to run the ball really well. Juju's a really good receiver. He's not AB, but at the same time, he still had 1,400 yards receiving. And they want to be in there. I think they're young guys who haven't got paid yet. They know and they want to be a part of the organization. They want to change it. I mean, a lot of things that they're doing, they learned from the predecessors. They learned from Le'Veon Bell. They learned from Antonio Brown how to be in the crowd, how to be this and move around and shaker. So I think it's going to be good for them to have those young guys who's learned the good things and they know what not to do from those guys. And now they're going to be the leaders in that locker room. And you still got Big Ben, and I think they just want to collect the group. They want everybody to buy in. They want nobody to have any other agendas but winning. And I think this is that thing. I'm not saying that Antonio Brown doesn't want to win, because Antonio Brown does want to win. But I think there has been some bumping of the heads between the quarterback and the receiver, and that can't really be going on. Juju's going to be more of a guy who's going to do exactly what he needs to do.
Do you believe Pittsburgh, as long as they have Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger, their window of being able to win the Super Bowl is open because of your respect for Ben and how he plays the position?
Yeah, I think that window's still open because, like I said, James, he to me was a more traditional Steelers running back. Before, Steelers were hard-nosed, running downhill running backs. Willie Parker, Jerome Bettis, you know, Franco Harris, everybody that just ran straight downhill and ran that type of offense. Now they got Le'Veon Bell, who's a new type of running back, catching and receiving. So I think James gets that identity back to we're going to pound the ball, we're going to pound it again, and then we're going to throw it. And then I think defensively they're still trying to come around, but they're doing a good job. In the first round, they took a linebacker.
Well, that's the thing is, so when you talk about Steelers tradition, and I know this is your first year in the AFC, but when you mentioned Franco Harris, you obviously been watching football and covering it or consuming it for a long time. Steelers, to go along with that hard-nosed running game, always was great defenses to go along with it. And they, ever since Ryan Shazier was tragically injured, they haven't had that defensive identity. I think that's what they were hoping to recapture with their first-round pick this year with that linebacker, because, man, linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, that's one of the
That's like the holy grail, you know. You think about the people who play linebacker there, and you think about defense. You think about how they do things, that physicality. You know, we talking about to Mean Joe Green time.
Yes, sir.
When you lined up against the Steelers, you knew that you maybe get your tooth knocked out, you maybe get your arm broke, because the Steelers were that type of defense.
Right.
And I think that's what they're trying to get to, that identity, the true Steelers. They're hard-nosed. You know, we're doing this thing. It's cold outside, and we're going to play defense.
If they get back to that, I respect that. Because Mike Tomlin, he's going to win the press conference. But based on the intel that we saw, the backfighting, L. Bell not being pleased, Ben Roethlisberger, some of the stories we heard about him.
But the coach doesn't have anything to do with that. That's between the players. The players are the one who has to come together. All the coach does is put the plan down. It has to be the players who bring the nucleus of the team together. The leadership comes from the players.
No, I like that coming from you because you're playing.
Well, I'm saying,
but let me tell you something. People doing these shows, they don't like to blame the players as much. In Pittsburgh, there's two people that have gotten more blame. Mike Tomlin, number one, and then Ben Roethlisberger. You are right. A lot of this responsibility does lay on the players to be able to control the locker room and control those other narratives. But because of Ben and the way Ben has led, this has not been a smooth locker room. And these veteran players, as you mentioned before, they have set the tone for potentially what can happen in the future.
And then also, too, you can't expect a 40-year-old player to connect with a 19-year-old, 23-year-old player because their lifestyles are different. You
but
got family.
Tom Brady has figured out a way to do it.
I know, but then there's other players in that defense and that team that are leading that team. And there's other organizations where they just don't depend on one player. If you're depending on one player to do everything for a team, then you're not going to have the success. It takes a whole group of people who all have the same identity. That's what makes team sports better than any other sport, is because we come together for one thing. We collaborate and we come to win the game. Everything we believe in together, whether it's basketball, baseball, we're all doing the same thing, and we want to do this. Tennis,
yes.
You can go out there by yourself, and you can blame the coach because you're the coach. You can blame the player because you're the player. Anybody that messes up depends on you. But when it comes to team, the offensive line needs to block. The receivers need to catch. Everybody needs to do their job for a team to win.
Yeah, he makes a great point as far as New England. People don't understand. Tom Brady is the leader, but they give you power to be able to lead within your group, be able to lead your position, be able to lead on your side of the ball, to be able to mentor other guys. And that's what you talk about as far as the team that you're going. McCourty joining with him, Slater, the special teams player. They have leaders at every level of their team that Tom does not have to lead the whole team all the time.
I think the expectations are set by the individual leaders of every group. Like, you know, when you go to D-line, we're expecting you to do this. This is how we play. This is how we do things. And if you don't want to do that, you don't fall in line, then we have an issue with you. But at the same time, you're going to fall in line because you respect the players who come before you and what they do, their body of work, and how they prepare for the organization.